As I've said, it is a good idea to roll out internet access to the whole population. The government has stated so on numerous times in publications, and again today the Prime Minister took support further. And he's given Martha Lane Fox a role in coordinating the government's digital activities. It's right that councils are involved, but plenty of other good ideas have gone bad when people seek a commercial advantage through councils. We know what happened in the past when over-close relationships developed between councillors, council officers and property developers. Now, it has been suggested by Conservative councillors, including the leader of the council, that anybody who asks questions or raises concerns or indeed even reports these in the local press is working against an excellent initiative and against the interests of our town. That attitude worries me considerably. Asking pertinent questions is a legitimate activity in a healthy democracy. Probing questions should be welcomed and not pushed to one side or deflected by smokescreens. The job of elected members is to explain and promote their policies. They should not be secretive or defensive about this, nor should they abuse their position with officers. This is a failure of the political process, and whatever errors of judgment have been made, officers must not be made convenient scapegoats. It initiated and arose from discussions amongst councillors. And it's an irony, Mr Deputy Speaker, that the internet has provided access to much of the information I have detailed in this debate. Talkswindon members have sifted through council documents and company documents which are available online, and whilst it still took dedication and time to find the relevant information, it was a matter of days and weeks rather than months and years it used to take. And whilst I do not for a moment believe that there's been corruption on the part of officers, the process put in place at the behest of Conservative leaders of the Council lays open the possibility of future corruption. I repeat my plea to the Cabinet to delay any further allocation of taxpayers' money until a full cross-party investigation can be carried out into the actions of councillors and officers. Now, the Honourable Member for Meriden is quoted on Digital City's website saying, "We want to see a flowering of this all over the country." My message to her is that she and her party's councillors need to have much more probity before they rush headlong into schemes which have the potential to waste hundreds of thousands of pounds of taxpayers' money, disadvantage small businesses and threaten the reputations of local councils. There are serious questions still to be answered. Did this sorry mess come about because leading Conservatives wanted to keep the initiative secret, not just from opposition councillors, but members of their own group, in case it was scuppered at an early stage due to the flimsy business plan, or because they were scared credit could be claimed by others? Whilst the blame for this lies squarely at the door of leading Conservative councillors who insisted on secrecy, were council officers unable or unwilling to challenge the Conservative group, which will still be in power, as I said earlier, on the 6th of May? Did officers insist on one of their own officers sitting on the Digital City Board because they were concerned about the closeness of Mr Hunt to the councillors and council processes? Did they then recently realise that this would instead compromise them and run a mile from it? What safeguards are now in place to protect taxpayers' money and ensure a level playing field for the small businesses in Swindon? I hope and trust my honourable friend will help me get some serious responses to these pertinent questions.
Ms. Barbara Follett.
Thank you very much, Mr Deputy Speaker. It's a real pleasure to be responding to this debate that is brought by my honourable friend, the member for Swindon South, and I congratulate her on securing this opportunity to discuss her concerns about the way in which Swindon Borough Council has introduced borough-wide Wi-Fi. As my honourable friend knows, local authorities act independently of central government, and ministers like myself have no remit to intervene in their day-to-day affairs, except where specific provision has been made by an Act of Parliament. However, local authorities are accountable to their electorates for their actions, and if a member of the public suspects a local authority of fraud, corruption or misuse of public money, they should contact the appointed auditor for that authority. Again, if a member of the public considers that the council has acted illegally or has not acted in accordance with their own constitution, they should contact the authority's monitoring officers. In other words, despite the limitations on central government intervention, there are measures in place to secure local intervention. That said, the fact that Swindon is working with the private sector to make the town the first in the United Kingdom to provide free Wi-Fi internet access for all its residents has been widely reported in the press. The aim is a good one, and indeed I believe it may have replaced Swindon's magic roundabout as an identifying feature of the town. The challenges of the current recession make it even more important that there is successful partnership working to make effective use of public money, and that available resources are deployed as efficiently and as transparently as possible to pursue local priorities. The concerns that my honourable friend has expressed tonight are primarily about the procurement process and the decision-making aspects of this project. The concerns have included the way the Borough Council handled the Wi-Fi zone rollout in Swindon, the pilot scheme which was set up with Digital City UK, a company which started with a £450,000 loan from the Borough Council, the transparency of the process for decision-making, as only 3 councillors were involved in the agreement, the fact that an employee of the council was and is a member of the company board. Taxpayers' money does appear to be at risk, as the business risk would not appear to be underwritten. Finally, the lack of information on Wi-Fi, especially on its health effects, and as any honourable member knows, these are a cause for great concern. And finally, my honourable friend raises the fact that Wi-Fi is not necessarily the best solution to deliver broadband to any communities, let alone excluded ones. In a city area, you can find it difficult for the Wi-Fi to penetrate housing, especially if the walls are thick and built in Victorian times. And Wi-Fi is unlikely to support next generation access speeds, so it could be quickly superseded by cable and fibre optics. And Wi-Fi speed suffers the more people use it. This is known as the contention ratio. So all in all, there are a lot of concerns about the way in which Swindon Borough has gone about the provision of this very laudable item, and B, the research that they did into it beforehand. I'll now, with your permission, Mr. Deputy Speaker, have a look at the government's established policy on procurement, just to clarify it for my honourable friend. This is that it should be based on value for money, having due regard to propriety and regularity. The European Union's procurement directives set out the legal framework, detailed procedures and criteria for specification, selection and award of contracts above certain thresholds. Even below these thresholds, the EU treaty-based principles of non-discrimination, equal treatment, transparency, mutual recognition and proportionality must apply. The EU procurement directives and implementing regulations enforce EU rules on transparency, free movement of goods and non-discrimination. They require that in most cases there should be competitive procurement advertised across Europe. Subject to their legal duties, including the duty of best value and public procurement, law, local authorities are responsible for taking their own procurement decisions. The duty of best value, as laid down in legislation, requires authorities to make arrangements to secure continuous improvement in the way in which they exercise their functions, having regard to a combination of economy, efficiency and effectiveness. Any specific complaints that best value is not being met in a particular set of circumstances would need to be addressed in the first instance with the authority's external auditor.